All right. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today and happy National Poetry Month. We're so glad that you're here on this beautiful April afternoon. And we are thrilled and feel very lucky to be kicking off our 22nd season of poetry readings today with renowned poet Jimmy Santiago Baca. Before we begin, we would like to say a special thank you to the University of Nevada, Reno College of Liberal Arts, the English Department's Visiting Speakers Committee, the Distinguished Visiting Writer Fund, and Gail Marie Palmeyer for their support for today's reading. Our host for Poetry Month is our friend and esteemed poet, Sean Griffin. Sean has dedicated his life to creating a caring community. In 1991, he and his wife, Deborah, founded Community Chest, a nonprofit organization that directs more than 30 programs for Northern Nevada, including hunger relief, service learning, drug and alcohol counseling, and art and social justice projects. Throughout this time, he has taught a poetry workshop at Northern Nevada Correctional Center and published a journal of their work, Razor Wire. In 2014, he was inducted into the Nevada Writers Hall of Fame, and in 2006, he received the Rosemary McMillan Award for Lifetime Achievement in the Arts. Without further ado, please join me in welcoming Sean Griffin.
Thank you very much, Emily. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to our 22nd year of celebrating National Poetry Month here at Sundance Books and Music. For 1/3 of my life, I have watched as this event has grown to become an annual orchestration of poets and poetry. And today's reading is a real milestone in that journey. Many of you will remember that we tried to host Jimmy Santiago Baca this time last year, but then came COVID. And so we listened to him reading from his new book of essays, Laughing in the Lines. Today, we will hear him read from his Albuquerque home, but before I introduce him, I must thank a host of people who made this reading possible. First, to all of our dear friends at Sundance, including Christine, Heather, Danilo, and Emily, my deepest thanks for your belief in this event. To Gail Marie Palmeyer and Danielle Enrique Perez at the University of Nevada, Reno, my heartiest of thanks for helping to underwrite this event. To the dozens of poets who have read in this series and some who will read in the coming Thursdays of April, my deepest gratitude for your voices and your presence in contemporary poetry. For those of you who have seen the movie of Jimmy Santiago Baca's life or read the memoir from which it comes, A Place to Stand, you know he has not had an easy life. But out of this life came poetry that sears, and for many it is a kind of poetic totem that braids the New Mexico of home with the silence of loss. His biography reads like the drumming of hearts and minds gone to sorrow. Out of the ashes of 2 lost parents, an orphanage and prison, he has made another world, one in which he can breathe, the world of language. His new book, American Orphan, out today from Arte Publico Press, chronicles this journey. But we do not come to him for this drumming of sorrow. We come to him for the reassurance that all of our journeys have meaning, especially those inside the concertina wire. I sat with Jimmy a week ago Sunday at a cafe near his home. More than anything, I sensed a genuine desire to alter so much that is wrong with our times and the way we treat people who have little to rely on. He asked if 3 of my former Razor Wire workshop members could come to his conference in June. Of course, they were elated when I told them. But more than that, it was an affirmation of their worth as people. This is the drumbeat he carries. This is the way he teaches and speaks and loves his family and children. This is his devotion, to reconstruct the life that was taken and make from it a man who lives as if fire were friend. Please join me in giving a warm Northern Nevada welcome to Jimmy Santiago Baca.
Thank you very, very much. Yep, thank you. I got up this morning about 7 or 6 or 5, something like that. And I had to answer about 30 emails. I'm not real high on half of them from you, Sean. And I'm not real high on answering emails that, I'm working on a novel. So I was able to somehow get around to writing it a little bit. And then I had to plant some pinon trees. And in the process of planting pinon trees, one of the horses got loose. So I had to chase it down for 2 miles. And that's only half of the day. So I come to you now wondering what the heck a poet is. But I just want to say thank you all for setting this up. I truly appreciate it. Let me start out with a small poem, and then I'm going to ask for some questions from you students, right? Are they students?
No, this is the public reading at Sundance. The students are later tonight, and they're on YouTube, so they probably can't ask questions. So this is your show, and for the next while, Jimmy.
Okay, wow, that's going to be like chasing 2 horses for 2 miles. Well, here we go. I'll read you something. And I wish I had people I could talk to back and forth, because I'm not real, I'd like to hear what people think about poetry. They couldn't write something in, could they?
If we get any questions in the comments, I will be happy to ask them.
Yeah, that would be good. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, well, good. Okay, good. Here goes a funny one. Here goes a sweet one. Okay. Okay. Here's a since we're in the COVID stream, I guess I would call it. This is a poetic prayer. Lord, during this period of quarantine and social distancing, let me swirl my poetic concoction and brew up an elixir that'll mount an attack on ignorance and enlighten the disbelievers. How's that? Any comments out there? Okay, look. Here's a funny one. I start thinking, waiting in line at Whole Foods, masked and gloved. Imagine having names like avocado, organic bread, seedless grapes, boneless chuck roast. They enrapture me, make me want their names. Yo, call me if you see me walking down the street. Hey, avocado, what you doing? And I reply, nah, same old organic bread. You want to mix it up tonight at the new Beat Club? Maybe spread up some style jams? And he replies, maybe invite Seedless. That boy can mash up the grapes, baby. He can mash them up. Oh, yeah, and don't forget boneless chuck roast. Anybody be messing with us, he be putting his weight on them. Yeah, okay. All right, I reply. Get the crew and let's cook it up. Yeah, we'll stew it up. So there you go. I will, let's see here. I have, besides that new novel, I have a new book of poetry coming out after the novel. You see, I write a lot of stuff, but I don't really write it with the intention of publishing it. I don't write under that type of motivation. I write because it's what's coursing through my veins. And if it's never published, it's okay. It's like a map that's tracking my existence, my day. It's like if I write something, I'll open up a folder and I'll write like a lot of other poems over the period of a year. And then maybe I'll go back and look at them and see if there's a theme, see if there's something I'm trying to unconsciously get at. And this book here, when I walk through that door, it was a bunch of poems that I wrote with no intention. And I had a guy from Myanmar. I have a hard time pronouncing that, Myanmar.
And yeah, sir, Burma.
Right, and he was in a refugee camp for 12 years, and he was in a Thai camp for another 8 or something. But I was driving down the road, and I have a farm, and I was trying to run some water, and I heard on the radio that Catholic Charities were helping refugees. So I called up. I went to go see him. I hired this guy, and turned out that the military burned his house. They were going house by house, burning all the houses. And he had fled with his family just before they got to his house. And he had, so he ended up here, and I went to go see him, and he had a catatonic daughter, and he would hold her hand, and they would travel everywhere together on buses and stuff. And I said, I want to hire you. So I hired him, and I took him up there, a little tiny guy. And I was blown away by him. You would think that being a Chicano, as close as I am to the border, with all those children put in cages and the women being raped by INS and ICE and stuff like that, it happens a lot. You would think, I mean, I've written a novel for them, and you would think that that's where my attention would be, but instead it was with this little guy who was amazing, you know. And I'll show you how amazing it is to have other cultures. One day I had 2 basketball players from UTEP helping me lift rocks out of this massive trench that we dug. And this little guy was, the two basketball players had to just they just had to sit down after like an hour. I didn't, because every rock I pulled out of that trench was a poem. I wouldn't even have the farm if it wasn't for me, my books of poetry selling. I bought it with poem money, which is a beautiful thing to say. It is the most amazing thing to say, that you bought something because of your poems. So I was picking up rocks, and at my age, the guys were like telling me, how the hell? I mean, you've been doing this for 4 hours, dude. I'm like, dude, these are poems, man. I mean, come on. So I'm like lifting them, right? This little guy, man, he was picking up boulders, and I couldn't believe it. At the end of the day, I couldn't move. Now listen to this. He came in the cabin, and he would wear a sari. He would wear like a toga, and he was real quiet, eat rice, and he wouldn't poop in the cabin. He would go in the forest. And I told him, I said, look, homie, I got a bathroom. He's like, oh, goes up in the forest, right? So, I mean, I had nothing but adoration for this man. And I was hurting so bad. I don't know how to do yoga. I don't know how to do all that stuff. I'm learning how to stretch a little. Well, I'm on the floor aching and moaning. He walks in, and he doesn't speak English. So we communicated by just like nods and glances and fingers. And he tells me to flip over on my stomach. And he wants to walk on my back. And I'm thinking in my head, well, what if he's gay? I mean, you know, convicts, I'm a convict, ex-convict, right? And I'm an ex-street thug, right? And I'm an ex this, ex that, ex whatever, right? So I embrace gay people all over the world, have written great poems that were shown at the Whitney Museum in New York, along with a photographer, right? And about gays and stuff like that. He gets on my back, and I can't believe it, dude. The guy's toes start to work like angel wings. And within minutes, the pain in my back is gone. And I'm like, wow, dude. I mean, really, we're only like an hour from Santa Fe. That place is thick with millionaires. Do you know how much they would pay you to do what you just did to me? Dude, you could be a millionaire because that's all they do is go to their masseuses and whatever, you know? And I'm like, dude, you know, and he's like, he smiles and he shakes his head. No, you, just you. And I'm like, oh, okay, I love you, whatever. So I get a book in the mail. The publisher, it's Penguin Beacon Books in Boston, right? Um, um, Random House owns it, right? So can I blurb a book? And I'm sure I say, yeah, no problem. It's about a gynecologist in the South who was cutting women's parts out. Horrible, horrible. But I blurbed it, and I asked the publisher, would you be willing to look at something I'm messing with here? And she said, sure. So I sent her a couple of poems about this, you know, that this guy inspired, right? And she wrote back immediately, oh my God, these are amazing. Do you have a book? And I'm like, well, I don't know. Let's see what I got here, right? Next thing you know, they published it. And then it became one of the New York editors' choice for books, the selection, you know, that they chose. And it all started with me just working with this guy and having compassion for him. And now the book just took off, you know, it's like, wow, okay. Now I'm going to read you a couple from there, and then I'll go back to the wildlife poems about buffalo. For some reason, and I don't know why, that's going to remain a mystery to me. And you all can probably try to figure this one out for yourself, but I wrote in a woman's voice. I don't know why. And it's about a woman who left El Salvador, and her husband was murdered, and she came north with her baby. Now, there's a couple of words that are in Spanish. And since the Mexicans and the Spanish have been here for 300, 400 years before the Americans came in, you know, you should know Spanish. So I'm not going to stop and translate for you, but there's not a whole lot of Spanish words, okay? Okay, here it is. And this one's from this book here. In San Salvador, Tonal, my marido, works night shift knitting clothing for export. Gangs tax the workers half their check, but Tonal refuses to pay. We have a 4-year-old, Joaquin, but they don't care. On Tonal's way home last night, 4:30 in bed, when I hear angry voices outside, you pay or die. Wheels screech, door slams, Tonal's voice begs for mercy, and then shots, boom, boom. And the car squeals off, leaving Tonal's jagged voice. Sofia, ayúdame, Sofia. I rush from the bedroom, draw my yarn blanket and slippers on, made of llama and sheep wool, Tonal made for me on our 5th anniversary. I dash into the night across the street and I collapse next to Tonal, kneeling under the streetlight in the neighbor's stone dirt driveway. I cradle Tonal's body on my lap. Mi amor, mi amor. I weep as blood pools in the dirt. I tug his arm. Mi amor, no te mueres. And he groans, corre, corre, mi reina, corre para el norte. Con mi hijito, vete, mi amor, corre o te van a matar. And I scream, stay awake, stay awake. Blood surfs from his thighs, ladles out from kneecaps like potato peelings on the cutting board. The stones in the dirt witness. The stones ask, the stones take, the stones tell. Lay on us, they whisper. We will absorb your sadness. Tonal died. Me and my baby Joaquin go north, Pal Norte, as he wanted, to escape the wrath of the gang. At every port and border, we encounter vigilantes, uniformed official, administrators, and unruly mobs shouting the same refrain, go back to your country. And from American language radios at the Mercado and from windows, talk show celebrities label us rebellious outlaws, drug dealers, and criminals. The experts claim not to know our oppression, how we're tortured and murdered and turned away at every door. Instead of the real people that we are, hungry and kind and hardworking, dreaming of an education and a peaceful life, their ideas replace us with stereotypes that suit their selfish needs. We did nothing wrong. The shooting has taken the center out of me, leaves cartridges of shotgun shells where my heart used to be. In the center of me, smoldering, how Tonal was just on his way home from work. Paper lunch sack clutched in hand, San Martin de Porras medal around his neck, a turquoise silver wedding band, his Tío Tomás Ahuichol silversmith made for us, and a heart tattoo with our names on his chest with Joaquin, siempre mi amor, on his left arm. I pack what I can carry and I flee para el norte. Joaquin strapped to my back. 4 times I have to jump trains as they're moving. 4 times I'm gang raped by predators and police. And as each man mounts me, a voice deep inside me speaks. Will you tell them hell is not a dream and that you've been there? Will you tell them? And I whisper, I will, I will. In El Paso, Texas, I plead for asylum. They bus me to the Otero County Processing Center, Immigration Detention Center in Otero County, New Mexico. And ICE authorities take my baby Joaquin and I'm placed in a cell, and 2 ICE officials rape me that night. Their badges and pistols and leather belts shimmering under the fluorescent ceiling lights, their sweat and tongues flickering spit sprinkles my cheeks. Veins pulse at their necks, reddened faces, swollen and eyes glazed angry with a madness. I am raped by an ICE officer again. He grunts and squeals like a pink pig. And the stones and the dirt witness. The stones ask, the stones take, the stones tell. Lay on us. We will absorb your sadness. I close my eyes, vowing never to become a prison company whore for favors, for Cokes and chips and cigarettes. I close my eyes and I see Tonal hovering in the air around me. She's bleeding. I hear an ICE officer's voice say to his partner on top of me, who replies, what she's gonna do, call 911? He laughs, let the bitch die. The more do, the better off we are. And behind my eyelids, Tonal and Joaquin's bright eyes grow with blinding sunshine over me, burning away their smell and touch and laughter, burning away the gunshots that killed Tonal, that still shudder my dreams with snarls and scare me, burning away the gangs in El Salvador, the clubs and the bombs and the body parts strewn in the streets, the paramilitary death squads that scare me, burning it away. Patriotism's blood hunger that devours and maims and silences Salvador's children. A democracy that stalks us and roams the dark land of our sorrow, smothered in flames and blood of our loved ones. Tonal and Joaquin's eyes shine like the sun, as if to say, Mama, healing is the word for challenge, is another word to dream what is possible. They convey, looking into my brown eyes, all of us who journeyed undocumented from cosmic sunlit regions of the universe into earthlings with hands and mouths and lips and breasts and ears and toes and hips. Like all of us, once a child filled with questions, Mama, what is that? His first sensual exploration into the world sparked light in his heart, brimmed seeds of his originness. What is that, Mama? And I say, Mijito, that's a chili pepper. And in the bell tower, I say, Mijito, that's a pigeon. And dirt between fingers, I say, that's sandbox soil. And that, feeling my lips on his cheek, I say, a kiss. And then when he kisses me, I ask, what is that? And he laughs and says, love, Mama, love. And now they have Joaquin caged somewhere. And I listen to the rumors from other women. They sell the children to sex traffickers, use them for forced child labor, sell them to the wealthy white people. That morning, September lawns and bare trees studied the crime scene to understand what imbues the dawn with sorrow, darkening it, with the feeling that it is harder to have hope, that the violence will never, ever end. Me voy al norte. Joaquin beside me. We walk for weeks through the foothills, where my heart flares, its nostrils quivering and puffing as cacti and 100-year-old cedars root in desert granite crevices counsel me in patience. I have an overwhelming need to sit on a boulder and weep for my marido, for me, for my hijito Joaquin. So many children in San Salvador line the cemetery row, so many funerals daily. I held my marido's head in my lap and breathed on his face that it was gonna be okay. My face under the streetlight, smooth as a jade plant, my voice like a wind chime declaring my love to him. And last night, Donald came to me again in fragments of a dream. Our life together once. Me in the garden planting chili peppers, him cutting and nailing boards for the herbs. Joaquin jumping on the trampoline, illuminated red hot in my dream. Jagged asteroids that flew through space in my sleep to nourish my heart for the journey. And then I dream of Joaquin, bits and pieces of a dream. I'm in the woods, at the sea, atop a mountain, opening my arms to embrace them with the growl of a mama jaguar. And they fly toward me from outer space as if I'm the center of their homeland. Shattered, they now return to create life with me. But at night, while women in the dorm crowd around the radio to hear news of their disappeared children, surf stations with hosts accusing refugees of carrying disease and infections, of being terrorists and drug addicts. Young ones, 14, 15, 16-year-olds, drugged by the doctors and counselors working for ICE, are taken out to drink and party at night and return at dawn with new shoes and blouses and bracelets. At the prison fence this morning, I stand and I feed a roadrunner. It's the only desert bird who taunts the rattler. Luring it forth, expands its wings, idling inches from it. When the snake lunges at it, the roadrunner fakes in, skips back from the venomous fangs, hops clear, and snatches the snake in its beak, smashes its head against a stone and swallows it. Sleek gray feathers, black spots and white edgings, swoops in a single blink of an eye on the brick wall, over the bushes, across the patrol path. It goes fast and agile as a hummingbird, and I toss cooking pot scraps and dinner greens on the grass, and he eats tame as any yard dog. I pray for the roadrunner to check on my 4-year-old Joaquin, now classified a criminal by the United States. Please, roadrunner, guard him against the snakes. I tell the stones, he was a preschool child once, racketing hallways, clacking his skates in his cubby, hanging his rain slicker on the wooden pegs and stamping in rain puddles with his galoshes. He grew wings at recess. When the bell rang, scudded back his desk, anxious to fly over the playground and perch on the merry-go-round like a quetzal bird in the forest. And his heart's door hinges grimaced with the coming and going of so much happiness through him as he raced others to hopscotch under the shed, or the soccer on the courts, or dangle on the monkey bars, or yelp down the dented slide. And at the fence on another morning, I'm startled and I yell, a shriek. And other women rush out thinking the worst. Maybe I've been shot, or maybe I broke something. But instead, what happened was a hawk landed on the fence bar, perched a few feet from my face, and studied me for minutes. A moment with no beginning or end. An infinite meeting of two travelers. In the hawk's eyes, all it had seen, the deserts and the forests and seas and fields and cliffs. And because when I was a child, I lived in the rainforest, I bathed in the mud pits used by Huichol ancestors, plastering mud on my small body. The hawk knew me, as it knows a tree or the air beneath its wings, and it gave me in that moment all the lands it had soared over, leaving me a feather that had brushed against the sun. There's part of a poem there from this book. So it'd be nice if you bought it, because I do not like to read to people who don't buy books. Now let's see if my back. Where is my friend from Myanmar? All right, let me see you all throw some questions at me. Write some questions down so the host can ask me the questions, and then I'll answer, and then I'll read a little more.
Yes, you can put your questions right in the YouTube comments and we will see them.
Any questions?
Not yet.
Okay. Oh boy, I'm not sure my voice can handle this long of a reading. Well, ladies and gentlemen, wake up, write some questions. While you do, I'm going to read another one. We're going to switch gears, okay? This one's about wildlife. It's called Buffalo Rain. Strong rain, big, hard, masculine drops smack the canyon forest pines. I hear a black nostriled heave sigh over the fields. In the meadow beyond my cabin, buffalo rain grazes in the morning mist, nibbles withered grass tips, wrenches at the day moon hanging in the dew on twigs. The buffaloes clomp over the once new 2x4s I was going to use to build a dog pen, blackened by a year's weather in the weeds. A Hopi friend of mine tells me that the gnarly white ginger roots I'm planting this year are buffalo spirit hooves that dig at earth until it thaws through to release barrel-chested healthy nubs. I think of this as I watch buffalo rain in the same meadows kids from the village brought Georgia O'Keeffe to, where she found the colors that she dreamed of for her painting. The children told her what each flower was, its medicinal and ceremonial use, how the petals sweep the blue from sky and save the sky in roots and petals. Imagine saving the sky the way you do pennies in a jar. They taught her Chicano Indio names, instructed her in the ways of grandmothers distilling pigments from blossoms and stems. Without them, those little kids, there'd be no O'Keeffe paintings as we know them. In the 1850s, the village was a trading post where Hopis and Utes and Apaches and Comancheros, Kiowa and Dene, and a few Crow and Lakota traded captives and horses. A village, not a pueblo. Mexicans and Indios married, and today we have more tribes living side by side than anywhere else. They say O'Keeffe painted the cliffs behind my cabin and sold the Canyon series for millions to the Kemper Museum in Kansas City. Made her famous and wealthy, while the villagers were given oranges and thought they were eating tiny suns. The same cliffs that I pray to each morning, same cliffs my ancestors appear each night in ghost form, dancing and praying. I see them when I go hiking. 200-year-old young couples sitting in boulders scooped out by centuries of rain, kissing. I meet my uncle's spirit hunters in other boulders, carved out with stone chisels. Sit in and wait for elk or turkey to come by. In some boulders chiseled by wind, young warriors perch as lookouts for raiding parties. Some rocks have been whittled smooth to divert rainwater to gather in pools. I visit these sacred places and I pray and I drink the water and I nod to my ancestors, my tios, tias, abuelo, y padres, see them as clearly as I do my own hand. Each morning I ask them for guidance. Each morning I offer my heart to them. Later I catch the morning news where viral hornets are swarming cities. Nature, I think, self-correcting what we haven't, balancing people out of whack, arrives to clean house. Mother gives earth gives Mother Earth a reprieve from our greed. Pollution decreases, traffic lessens, power mongers pause, grunting at the trough. No more maddening gotta have, gotta do. No more gluttonous consumption of oil, no more guzzling consumers, not a nuclear bomb or white dictator that come to destroy, but a tiny, invisible, microscopic leveler, a balancer, as we expected brown people or Chicanos or Mexicans, we caged them. We expected them to come and take over, but it wasn't. It was just a little tiny thing. Instead, we separated families, murdered them. We imagined them wielding weapons, drugs, alcohol, bombs. They warned us these would be the enemy. But an aerial corona star appears in the blood to settle the books. What a contradiction. The enemy didn't come at us crossing borders, swinging machetes and machine guns. A benign emperor embracing us in groups and crowds, merging into our breathing, and his glittering carriage came. Far from the closest person I've only spoken a few words to in 30 years, in this womb of cliffs, silence is the language that I speak, suspends its mist over everything. I stand on the porch listening to the raindrops tick the green galvanized roof. Some leaves didn't fall this winter. Clutter the boughs, still trying to clutch on to spring, to what they had, to what they were. And their failures' meaning of life is to surrender. Nothing holds on to what it had, to what it was. Gust clusters strong enough to shove me back, hackle the crackly beige leaves, make Bella, my Corso, my black dog, turn, searching animal movement. Catching a whiff, she lunges tongue long, growling after ancestral spirits that kindle the air, tracking their glittering with sniffs over boulders into the weeds, dashing up a wildlife trail, baptized by brush, sparkling rainwater over her. I watch, and the silence whispers, do not hold on to what you had, Jimmy, to who you were. Live light. Now, that's going to be about it for this evening, folks, unless you have some questions.
We actually
Okay.
did have some questions that came in. If you'd
Oh,
like me
no. Really? They took me serious? I'm serious.
to.
Okay.
It's hard not to follow your instructions. All right, so I'm just going to start at the top here. Steffi Preseski asks, where did the details of your poems come from?
Observation and imagination. Next.
All right, Emily Burton asks, who is your all-time favorite author and who inspires you the most?
I think ordinary people, rhyming poems, it's simply not a literary device. The reason that we have rhyming poems, especially in our language, our indigenous languages, people like to rhyme endings because it was easier to remember the stories. It was a really cool little way of remembering the stories. Like, I know this line and it's the end like this, so I know the next line because it rhymes with that. So we got away from the rhyming once we got into books. We didn't have to oral culture, oral traditions were not that much, practice. So we began to put stuff in books. So we got away from all of that, and it didn't mean that people quit telling their stories, and it didn't mean that poems stopped being poems and stuff. It just means that a lot of people started writing for books in a weird way, and for my heroes and my best authors, I think I still have to go back to the people who tell stories when they're sitting around a table or at a bar having a beer or at a corner waiting for a bus. I write those ordinary people who I eavesdrop on are the people who have the best stories because they're not edited and they're about true life stories. Babies that were born, daughters that went to college, husbands that don't love them, betrayals, love, loss, loneliness, ambitions. Those are the great stories. So those are the people who are my best authors. Okay.
All right. Darrell Greer says, hello, Mr. Baca. I appreciate listening to your literature. How do you tap into your creative process and keep it consistent?
Nothing is ever consistent with me. And I don't know if I tap into any creative process. I write and I hate, oh my God, do I hate it? I hate writing. I sit down at the table at my desk in the morning and I'm like, oh my God, what have I done? 65 years of writing. Why, God? Why? Why did you put this in my hands, this paper and this pencil? Why couldn't you have given me a shovel, a basketball, a spatula? I would have been a great cook, but why this, God? So there is no inspiration. There is only sitting and doing the hard work and trying to get to that place where your honesty is almost a prayer. Okay.
All right. All right. Melanie Parrish asks, do you write in the voices of other people regularly?
Yes.
And Krista Lucas asks, do you find it equally easy or equally difficult to write prose and poetry?
Both are really, really hard. It's like you have a cup and you drop it accidentally and it shatters into fragments. Your job is to try to put those pieces together so you can fill it with water to drink. And I've been wet ever since I tried. And thirsty. Okay. Okay, now listen, everybody, I want to say one thing. Please, I'm a poet. I vowed I would never take a position at a university. I've been offered a few times and I didn't take them. My kids were beautiful. They were like, we don't have up-to-date Nikes and stuff. I know, I said, I'm sorry. And they said, that's okay, that's cool. Or health insurance. They said, I said, listen, we can just stay healthy by living right, We don't have to have health insurance because I can't afford it. So the story goes, so what I'm basically trying to tell you is buy books so I can pay my damn bills, number one. And number two, we're having the 8th or 9th annual Jimmy Santiago Baca writing retreat. And if you go to my website, jimmysantiagobaca.com, you'll get some information on it. And we're going to have a lot of fun. It's in person and virtual. And so you'll get some information on it. We're going to send out some prompts for you to write to. And if you come in person, we're having it at the Museum of Art, which is exhibiting the Frida Kahlo paintings and Diego Rivera. And all around that area, you have the zoo, the aquatic park, you have biking, hiking, you have the open marketplaces with 1,000 places to eat. You have the old town shops, you got the parks. You're going to have a blast. So if you want to sign up for that, that would be great. It's our 8th or 9th annual retreat. And I hope to see one or two of you there. And Sean, I want to say thank you so much. You've been an amazing host. And I forgot your name. What's your name?
My name is Emily.
Emily, I felt so comfortable reading in front of you, just looking at your image. I really thank you so much because I was really tired.
Thank
and
you.
You did a great job. So thank everybody from my heart. And I'm going to sign off now, okay?
All right. Yes, thank you so much for being here. It was an amazing experience to have you here. We're so grateful.
Thank
Really,
you.
really a wonderful
Okay.
afternoon, Jimmy. Thank you for everything, and we'll be in touch a little bit later tonight. Much love from all of us in the ether sphere. Thank you again.
Yes, and thank you everyone for joining us. And of course, we have Jimmy Santiago Baca's books here at the store. And we're happy to order any more for you. And thank